Hi, welcome to the Potter's Roundtable. This is Pottery Shorts, a series of short pottery topics done on the fly. Hi, this is Pottery Shorts. I'm Phil Berneburg, and today's topic is using cones with a kiln sitter. I've got a kiln sitter here, an old one that I'm going to use sort of for demonstration purposes. And this metal housing with the switch on it and everything, this is the part that normally would be located on the outside of the kiln. And the only part you'd see on the inside of the kiln would be the end of this ceramic tube with the cone supports and the sensing rod on it. Kiln sitters, frankly, were not really originally intended to be a kiln control device. They were really meant as a safety device to shut off the kiln in the event you didn't happen to be around when the kiln reached its final temperature, and you couldn't, especially for manually operated kilns, when you couldn't program them. So the idea was it would shut off the kiln and it wouldn't overfire if you weren't there to shut it off. But a lot of people have been using them to actually control the kiln firing, and so in which case it's even more important that a cone be loaded properly into the sitter. So of course, with a kiln sitter, you're going to be using a small cone, the small size cones, not the large size cones. You can also use, they make pyrometric bars that are only available for use in kiln sitters. You can't use them as a cone, so most people tend to use the cones because then you can use them either as a cone in a cone pack or you can use them in the kiln sitter. And so and I should also mention is if you're going to be controlling the firing by the kiln sitter, then in this case, you want to actually use the proper cone number. So if this is going to be, let's say, a cone 6 firing, I can actually use a number 6 small cone. Now you may remember, and I've mentioned in some previous videos, that the small cones actually bend at 1 cone number higher compared to the large cones of the same number. So a small cone 6 actually bends at what is considered cone 7. But when it's put in the kiln sitter with the weight of the sensing rod on top of it, that makes it bend a little sooner, so it offsets that higher number. So in fact, it ends up bending at about the right temperature. So the real trick that I wanted to show you in this video is before you load the cone into the kiln sitter, take the small cone and put it across 2 fingers and roll it back and forth with your thumb. What you're doing, and you can press on it fairly hard. What you're doing is you're looking for cracked cones. It's not uncommon for a cone to have a crack in it where the tip will break off or it'll break in half. Cones are made by pressing mixtures of dry powders into a mold or into a die, and there's no way to really inspect them if they have cracks or defects in them. And the problem is if you're using it to control a kiln sitter, then if it has a crack in it, it can break and crack, and the kiln sitter will shut off prematurely, and so your firing is premature. The problem really that comes around with that is, if this is a glaze firing, for bisque firings it really doesn't matter that much, you just restart it or refire it. But for glaze firings, a lot of glazes never really melt quite as well when you interrupt the firing and then start them up again. They really don't quite perform the same way. So the best way for a glaze to be fired is all the way through the first time. So if you can avoid an interrupted firing, that would be great. So when I want to place the cone into the sitter, I'll raise up this is the sensing rod. I'll raise that up by pressing down on the outside end of the rod, and I'll lay the cone across the cone support, those 2 sort of blade-like structures. And what I'm trying to be careful doing is, I don't want the cone touching the porcelain, or the ceramic tube, because when the cone starts to melt or soften, it can actually stick to the tube, and then it won't drop and bend the way it's supposed to. Also, I want to place the cone so that the sensing rod is roughly in the middle of the cone. Because the cone is tapered, if I move the rod toward the thinner end, then it will bend sooner and the kiln sitter will shut off sooner. Or if I have the rod sort of more toward the fat end, the thicker end, then it will delay the shut off a little bit because that thick part doesn't bend quite as quickly. Okay, and then once the cone is in place, then I just lower the sensing rod back down on top of it. So that's it. Thank you for visiting with us today. Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the presentation, please like it and subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends. This way we get more viewers of our videos. Also, check out our website, www.hfclay.com. We'd really like to thank our patrons for supporting our educational efforts, such as these videos. And if you'd like to consider becoming a patron, go to patreon.com and look for the Potter's Roundtable.